Call the second session, the 122nd convention to order.
At this time, I'd like to call to order the second session of the 122nd Annual Convention and Conference of the Maryland State Firemen's Association. At this time, I'd like to recognize Hobie Howe for the safety message.
Wait for her. Thank you, Madam President. Good afternoon. Welcome back to our next meeting. And it was a lot longer this morning, wasn't it? Hope you had a safe and prosperous morning, which I'm sure you all did sitting in here. Let's be safe as possible. Don't drink and drive this afternoon or evening while you're out on the town. Get your free tickets and ride the bus. We want you to stay to be a safe one for you and your family this evening. Our group is always dedicated with all aspects of safety while in and around the convention center. So please help us by looking around for all the exits that might affect you. Visit us in room 212, and again, thanks from your safety committee.
At this time, I'd like to bring to the podium Director Steve Edwards of the Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute, and he will also be doing MRCRB. There you go. Thank you. I said we should have like a puppet thing back.
Thank you, Jackie. Certainly a pleasure to be here today at the MSFA convention, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to address you and have a few items just to address real quickly, both on behalf of the Maryland Instructor Certification Review Board and the Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute. So you're getting 2 for 1 this afternoon in this presentation. First, I'd like to thank President Jackie Olson, the MSFA officers, the Executive Committee, the MSFA Training Committee, for their dedication and support regarding quality emergency service training and educational programs. They do a great job working with MIFRE day in and day out every year. We're on tune this year to train over 34,000 students, over 1,800 classes, so they help us in that regard very much. I'd like to extend my appreciation to them for that. And also, thanks of appreciation for the MIFRE faculty, staff, and field instructors. They work hard day in and day out. They work every day, every night, all weekends, weekdays, weeknights, whatever it takes to get these classes completed. And I'd certainly like to thank them for their dedication and what they contribute to the success of our training programs. And in addition to that, this year there's extra good news on behalf of the EMS board, the governor, and the General Assembly. There was a pay raise approved for MIFRE instructors, field instructors, that'll take place July 1st. So we certainly thank them for that. Let me start with the Maryland Instructor Certification Review Board just very quickly, but on an unfortunate note, many of you know Joe Weisgerger, who served on the MICRB, and he was the last original MICRB member when that group began in 1980. Unfortunately, he passed away several months ago. He was very active. He was dedicated. He contributed a lot with 34 years of service to the MICRB, and they're very, very sad to see that. With regard to the MICRB members, thank each of them for what they contribute. Currently, there's 713 certified state emergency services instructors. There's 258 instructor trainers. There's 258 instructor evaluators and 20 instructor trainers throughout the state. In addition to that, a major improvement this year with regard to PDI opportunities. As you know, you have to submit for that. It has to be approved. We have an online approval process for that now within the MICRB, so we're able to process them much quicker. So we certainly thank the MICRB for what they contribute day in and day out. With regard to MIFRE, I'd just like to cover a couple of quick highlights. As you know, we've been trying to move our programs more toward distance education. We've had some success with that. We have a number of online training programs now that allows the student flexibility when to take the class, when to be in session, and how that works from an online perspective. We're moving to have an online component in most all of our classes. We're not moving as quickly as we like, but we're making progress with that. In fact, we recently hired a new faculty member from a university in North Carolina to work with us to put our training content on the learning management platform with regard to have these online training opportunities. So that's going very well. Active shooter, active assailants, incidents that are very prominent. No matter where you read newspapers today and no matter where you live, where you work, these are issues. We're working with we've had several active shooter seminars that have been very well attended throughout the state. We're working on participating in the statewide governance with regard to for first responders to active shooter, active assailant incidents. We're going to put together a distance education program at the awareness level to make it actually be public safety in general, not just fire, but fire, police, EMS. That what you have to be aware of and what you have to know with regard to response to active shooter events. So you'll see that happening over the next several months. Academic integrity and testing, it's a very important issue. We continue to work with that. All of our instructors who conduct exams on behalf of the Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute went through an online PDI proctor training test or program issue, I should say, with that, and that went very well. And I'll also let you know all our tests, all our examinations, all our practical evaluations that occur in our classes, everyone is under review. We're looking at the test questions, we're looking at the test validity, we're looking at the content of the exams as well as the practical evaluations, and we hope to make some improvements in that where improvements are needed. Our Incident Command Simulation Center has just worked out extremely well throughout the year. We've been very, very busy at College Park with that. We have the mobile center now that can be taken out to each region. Medical clearance policy, 3 years ago, we enacted a policy with very strong support of the MSFA with regard to students have at least medical clearance before they engage in a fire service training program. I can tell you this year our training injuries were down 45% over a 2-year period. So a 45% reduction in injuries. I cannot exactly say it was attributable to the medical clearance, but I think that's been a strong factor in it, and that's worked out very well. EMS leadership, we have EMS last fall, we began an EMS leadership seminar. There was a lot of technical training with regard to EMS education in the state. We thought we needed some more with regard to managerial issues in EMS, leadership issues in EMS. That course went very well last fall. It's being repeated this year, November 14th and 15th at Mifflin College Park. And with regard to our curriculum, this past year, these following programs were revised and brought up to date. EMT Refresher, Fire Officer 3, Firefighter 1 and 2, Hazmat Incident Commander, Advanced Life Support Refresher Course, Rescue Tech Site Ops, Rescue Tech VME, and the Online Study Skills Course, which is a course that we're putting online that will teach students how to take examinations and how to improve their study skills and to be applicable to all the courses across the board. So with that, let me thank each of you. There's many students in the room. There's many instructors in the room. This association, each of you, is what helps make MIFRE successful day in and day out. And I appreciate that. And in recognition, I'd like to have President Jackie Olson come forth. Jackie? Yes. And I'd like to make a presentation to her. Jackie has worked with us, myself, and our institute since day one. She's made training and education a priority. She clearly understands that in order to have a strong and viable fire and EMS service, you have to have new recruits, they have to be trained. People who are currently in the service have to be trained to maintain their skills and ability and all that. She's been great to work with. And I'd like to make this presentation. It says, in recognition of your successful term as President of the Maryland State Firemen's Association, your dedication to Maryland's fire and rescue services, along with your experience and professionalism, is very much appreciated. On behalf of the Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute, I wish you continued success. And that's not just from me, it's from the entire faculty and staff. Jackie, thank you for everything.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have to do a
Okay.
couple steps. Thank you. All right, you stay for a minute. All right. We want to show you that one. Oh, switch up. Thank you. One of the things, since we have such a great premier service in our Maryland, and a lot of counties and states are envious of it, as we have MIFRE, we have MIMS, we have Shock Trauma, Office of the State Fire Marshal, and we have MEMA and many of our other partners and MIMS. One of the things that I noticed is we never really have a collage of all our agencies together. So I just want to present to Director Edwards and our partners a collage that just represents all of the Maryland Volunteer Fire Service and what we expect of them, and what we get from them, from our training to our certification and things like that. So would like to present that to Director Edwards. So, would you like another picture?
No, no. Thank you very much.
And as always, we have a resolution thanking you for your contribution and partnership with us, as well as a goodie bag to reminisce about our convention. So, thank you again.
All right.
All right. Okay, well then, come get your goodie bag. MIVTech, right? MIVTech. At this time, I bring to the podium Lynn Gilroy, and he's with MIVTech, which is Maryland Fire and Rescue Education Training Commission. So,
Good afternoon, President Olson, Vice Presidents Keller and Roth, honored guests and delegates. On behalf of Acting Secretary of Higher Education Catherine M. Schultz and our Chairman Michael Clemens, I bring you greetings. Over the last year, the Maryland Fire Rescue Education and Training Commission has met numerous times to discuss issues that affected the fire service training needs of this great state. The Commission continues to monitor the rules and also the funds to implement the changes to the Charles W. Riley Scholarship Program. All students who took qualifying coursework during the 2013-2014 academic year must submit reimbursement applications to the Maryland Higher Education Commission by July 1st of this year for funds to be paid under the Charles Riley Tuition Reimbursement Program. That program changed from a tuition reimbursement program to a scholarship program, and that will take effect in 2015. We have been advised by the Maryland Higher Education Commission that the transition to this scholarship program will have a gap year in funding for the 2014-2015 academic year. Once we learned of this, we contacted Delegate Norm Conway for his guidance and suggested remedial action to this issue. Based upon his guidance, we will be seeking a legislative remedy with the new session that begins in January. Each year, the Maryland Fire Rescue Education Training Commission prepares a yearly report that is submitted to the Secretary of Higher Education and to the Governor. Over the last several years, we have been unable to provide each department with a copy of that report due to budget constraints. Those still continue. You can find our report by our commission onto the Maryland Higher Education Commission website. In closing, we look forward to working with President Keller and the other officers of the MSFA in the coming year, and we wish President Olson well as she finishes her term of office, and we wish all of you success in the balance of your convention. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Next, I'm bringing to the podium another one of our partners, and that would be the Director of Preparation from MEMA, and that would be Mr. Brandon McCluskey. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. On behalf of Executive Director Ken Milletti and Governor O'Malley, thank you for inviting MEMA to be a part of your convention. Again, Brendan McCluskey, I'm Director of Preparedness for MEMA. Most of the traditional emergency management functions fall under me at MEMA. So I wanted to give you an update on some of the happenings and events that have been going on at MEMA over the past year since I think Ken Maletti was here last year. We've added staff in key areas, especially planning, training, exercising, and grants. We've expanded some programs and taken on new initiatives. And we focused on the vision that the executive director has had, and that's that a prepared Marylander creates a resilient Maryland. One of his initiatives has been to create a Center for Preparedness Excellence, very similar to some of the things that we see at higher education institutions across the country. One of the hallmarks of this Center for Preparedness Excellence has been the Maryland Emergency Preparedness Program, which was created through a new executive order last year, which updated one from 1991. We also updated our strategic plan for preparedness across the state, and that replaced an old plan that had also been around for about 10 years. We're looking at what the federal government is doing, what's going on nationally across the country, and what's going on in the local areas as well. And we've created 4 mission area plans, one for response, which I think everybody is probably familiar with. But we've also gone beyond that and created plans for mitigation operations, recovery operations, and now even prevention and protection operations. Most of these are done or in the final process, and hopefully we'll have them out and published very shortly. In training and exercises, we've expanded the number of courses we've offered based on the needs as identified in our training and exercise plan that we go out and solicit information from the locals. We've had a partnership with the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene to get our expertise in training and education out to other local partners, including health departments and hospitals. One of the other things that we've done that we're very excited about is engage the learning management system, where we have an online system to go in, and all of our courses are found in this learning management system. We manage our courses there, we can create transcripts, and even do evaluations from this LMS. So if you haven't seen this, I encourage you to go online to our website and take a look for the learning management system. We've also included some increases in our public information and outreach, including we were one of the first at the state level to come up with a new website. And social media. We're on Twitter and Facebook if you haven't seen us there, and we're also now looking to go on to other forums. And one of our other big areas that we've been expanding into is private sector and integration with our private sector partners out there through platforms such as Osprey Business, and maybe you're all familiar with Osprey. We've expanded into a business focus, and including space in our State Emergency Operations Center. Now, as far as the State Emergency Operations Center go, if you're not familiar, we moved out of the old space that we had about a year ago, and we've been constructing a new space in that area. It's a state-of-the-art, high-technology emergency operations center that uses new concepts and best practices that we've learned from across the country. We're right now in the process of moving back into that State Emergency Operations Center, this brand new state-of-the-art center, and we hope to be able to be fully operational in that place in about a week or two. We'll have a grand opening probably around the August timeframe, mid-August, late summer, and we'll make sure that the association gets a copy of when that will be, so anybody who's interested can come out and take a look at our new center. We've also come up with some changes at our headquarters. The Maryland Joint Operations Center, probably a place that many of you get some information from, upgraded its computers, its radios, and its radio consoles recently. And it will also be going an overhaul in terms of the arrangements inside, furniture and paint and carpet, etc. If you've been up to MEMA, you might have noticed that we have some trailers in the back where we house about half of our staff. Well, they were never designed to be permanent. We're moving out of them into some new space that we've leased with the hope that in about 4 or 5 years we'll get a new headquarters building expanded on our site right there. So that's about it for updates from MEMA. So again, on behalf of Ken Maletti and Governor O'Malley, and I'd like to thank President Olson, the officers and delegates and all you representatives here for your leadership, and welcome the incoming officers and the new president. So thank you.
today. On behalf of MSFA, I just want to present you with this certificate of appreciation, and thank you for taking the time to come down to our convention. Please let the executive director know that we thank him for his support. So we have a certificate of appreciation for you.
Thank you very much.
And the convention bag.
And our lovely goodie bag.
Oh,
So
sure.
they got the X's now. Thank you again. You don't have to show them if you don't want to. We'll just say you just got the certificate of appreciation.
You know,
I know. At this time, I'd like to bring another one of our partners to Partner in Natural Resources, the Forestry Division, and I'd like to bring out Mr. Chris Robertson.
Thank you. Thank you, President Olson, officers, past presidents, delegates, members, and guests. I bring you greetings from Monty Mitchell, State Fire Supervisor. He sends his regrets he couldn't be with you this week. He's at the National Forest Fire Supervisors Conference in Minnesota. During 2013, the Maryland Forest Service responded to 122 wildfires that burned 161 acres, which is a really slow year for us. Below normal wildfire activity with our typical peak season being spring and fall. Also in 2013, the agency partners conducted 64 prescribed burns for hazardous fuel reduction on 1,190 acres. Maryland continued to support the national need for wildland firefighters and dispatched 9 individual single resources, 3 20-person crews, and 1 Type 6 wildland engine for assignment. The 2014, the agency has responded to 79 wildfires burning 1,659 acres. So we're on par for a normal fire season so far this year. The Forest Service continued progress on our heavy equipment replacement plan. 2013 Ford F550 Type 6 wildland engine was purchased and has been placed in service here in the eastern region in Dorchester County at Church Creek. The truck is equipped with a 350-gallon slip-on unit. Also, this year, a 2015 Ford F550 Type 6 engine will be placed in service in the western region at Green Ridge Fire Center in Flintstone in Allegheny County. Also, a 2014 Kenworth Dovetail truck we placed in service hopefully this fall and also at Green Ridge Fire Center to transport our 650 John Deere fire dozer that was purchased in 2013. In 2013, volunteer fire assistance grants were awarded to 43 volunteer fire departments in 15 counties for a total of $90,901. Of the awarded grants, 39 departments completed their grants and received $78,172 in grant funding that allowed departments to complete over $214,000 in projects, with 50-50 grant match funds to enhance wildfire protection in their local communities. Projects included equipping brush trucks, wildland Nomex gear, portable radios, and other small equipment such as fire hose. The 2014 grant application period is currently open with $82,500 in available funds. Applications are available online or by contacting any member of the fire staff. If you slip by our booth downstairs, we do have a few applications down there if you're looking for them. The application deadline is July the 18th, and that needs to be on Monty's desk by July 18th. Grant awards will be announced by the end of September, and there's a new federal reporting requirements this year for any department receiving a grant purchasing a single item of over $5,000. All eligible companies are encouraged to apply. The FireWise Maryland program continues to provide success in outreach to help better prepare communities with planning and mitigation of wildfires and to protect lives and property from wildfires in Maryland. 6 community wildfire protection plans, or CWPPs, were completed so far in 2014 that involved their respective communities, fire departments, and local officials in the planning efforts. There are now a total of 48 CWPPs in Maryland that cover 840 communities. Maryland has been awarded a fiscal year 2014 hazard mitigation grant of $285,000 to expand the program in the Appalachian and Piedmont region of the state over the next 3 years. The program seeks community involvement to take fire-wise actions to better prepare for wildfires. Also in 2013, the Federal Excess Property Program completed 19 transfer orders, acquiring 28 pieces of equipment with an original federal acquisition cost of just over $505,000. The excess federal property is acquired at no cost and is either utilized by the agency or provided to fire companies throughout the state through a cooperative agreement for use in fire suppression efforts. Maryland has a total current inventory with an original acquisition cost of over $5 million. Thank you for another year of great partnership with your departments in prevention and wildfire suppression. I extend my best wishes for a successful and productive 122nd MSFA Annual Convention. Thank you.
Thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule to come down and talk to us at our convention. We thank you for our partnership and the support that you and Monty give us. So we'd like to present you with a certificate of appreciation and our lovely goodie bag of convention trinkets that we have. So we need to go to the exits. At this time, I'd like to bring again one of our other partners up here, and that would be the Office of the State Fire Marshal, Fire Marshal Brian Geraci. You got a fan club. There you go.
Of course. I paid him for it.
Yeah, okay.
I paid him to be here. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to be here representing the Office of the State Fire Marshal and obviously being the fourth State Fire Marshal that was appointed back in September. So it's a pleasure for me to be here and talking to you today at the convention. I've been here a few other times before, but not in this capacity, so I'm proud to be here to do that. So let's get started. I bring you greetings from Governor Martin O'Malley, Lieutenant Governor Anthony Brown, and Colonel Marcus L. Brown, the Superintendent of Maryland State Police. On behalf of the entire staff of the Office of State Fire Marshal, I want to congratulate your association president, Jackie Olson, and Carol Hayden. Your terms of office have been extremely productive, and your service to your members is one your entire association should be very proud of. It's my distinct privilege to present to you the report of the Office of State Fire Marshal for 2013. In 2013, there were 58 fires that resulted in 69 deaths in 19 Maryland counties and Baltimore City. Those totals represent a 30% increase over the 53 deaths reported in 2012 and a 31% increase over the 56 fatal fires reported that year. And as I've said in other presentations, these are our failures amongst our many successes. We have to continue to get the message out to these folks about smoke alarms, getting out, staying out, and those types of things. We really do have to do that. And this is a tremendous increase over last year. Right now, for this year, we're down, so that's a good thing. Unfortunately, we lost a 7-year-old this morning in Baltimore City in a row house fire. 21 fire deaths and 18 fires in Baltimore City last year represented a dramatic 75% increase over the 12 fire deaths and 8 fatal fires reported during 2012, as well as a 125% increase in the number of fatal fires compared to the previous year. They're doing a lot better this year in Baltimore City, I'm happy to report. In Baltimore County, 5 deaths and 4 fires in 2013 reflected a 29% decline from the 7 deaths and 6 fires in 2012. 15 people lost their lives in 11 fires in Prince George's County during 2013, which is a 50% more than the 10 fire deaths reported in 2012. Anne Arundel County reported 4 deaths as many fires in 2013, an appreciated decline from the 7 fire deaths reported in 2012. And in Montgomery County, they had 4 deaths and 4 fires in 2013 compared to 3 in 2012. In recent years, the number of fatal fires reported to the state fire marshals have continued to decline, with fire deaths averaging about 66 a year from 2009 to 2013. Fire deaths have remained below 100 each year with the exception of 114, which occurred in 1994 for the past 20 years. This downward trend does not happen on its own. It is a direct result of the necessary fire prevention efforts of our fire service family. Through your efforts, we will continue this trend by remaining active in our communities by developing and presenting our successful fire prevention programs. Consistent with most previous years, more fire deaths occurred late at night and early morning hours than at other times during the day. And the hours between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. proved to be most deadly. During that 8-hour period in 2013, the 30 fatal fires that started during these 8 hours resulted in 39 deaths, accounted for 57% of the 66 fire deaths for the year, compared to 2012 when 20 fatal fires led to 26 deaths, accounted for 50% of the 53 fire deaths for that year. 6 of the 8 multiple death fires occurred during those hours in 2013. So based on the statistics, you can see where we have to focus our efforts on and those types of things. And we'll see a little bit more in some of the numbers that come up or where we need to focus at. In 2013, as in other years, most fire deaths occurred in residential structures, including 43 deaths in 1 and 2 single-family dwellings, 12 victims of apartment fires, and 2 victims in mobile home fires. Residential fires accounted for 83% of the fire deaths in 2013, compared to 81 in 2012 and 79% in 2011. Unfortunately, 2013 was not kind to us at all. During the first quarter of 2013, 29 Marylanders lost their lives to the ravages of uncontrolled fire when compared to 18 fire deaths recorded in the first quarter of 2012, an increase of 61%. Baltimore City and Prince George's County were particularly hard hit with very significant increases in fire deaths last year. I do, however, applaud the fire service leaders in every local jurisdiction for their continuing efforts to reduce fire deaths and injuries. Without these efforts, the fire deaths would increase exponentially year to year. I want to send out congratulations to Caroline, Hartford, Kent, Queen Anne's, and Somerset counties, which experienced 0 fire deaths last year. Unfortunately, 3 of these counties this year have experienced 1 fire death in each of those counties. As you are aware, the MSFA leadership and a number of fire companies play a critical role in promoting fire and life safety to help make our state safer from the devastating effects of fire. Once again, the Maryland Fire Service Legislative Working Group held weekly meetings in Annapolis City and Taylor Avenue Fire Station to discuss numerous legislative issues. Just like the MSFA legislative team, the Office of State Fire Marshal followed the 2013-2014 session of the Maryland General Assembly with an eye toward protecting the many items of interest impacting citizens of Maryland and the fire and emergency services. I want to really thank Deputy State Fire Marshal Kirby Travers from my office, who's on the Lower Eastern Shore. He represented the office down in Annapolis this year, and he did an outstanding job, so I want to thank him very much for that. I also want to thank the MSFA leadership for the continued support in working on a number of important legislative issues. The MSA leadership has always operated by a guiding principle of protecting Maryland citizens as its highest priority. We've had a meeting the last couple of weeks regarding legislation for next year, and there'll be some legislation stuff, items coming out of my office for next year as well. So we have some things that we need to correct, and hopefully it'll make things better for us and for the fire service as a whole. Prior to my arrival in the Office of the State Fire Marshal, the MSFA effectively joined forces to successfully address updates to Maryland's outdated smoke alarm laws. The Maryland Smoke Alarm Technology Task Force spent nearly 2 years reviewing smoke alarm technologies and present model code requirements before recommending updates to the smoke alarm law, which are now clear, concise, and up to date. A key element of the new law, which became effective on July 1st, 2013, requires the use of sealed long-life battery smoke alarms with built-in hush silence features and a requirement for a minimum of 1 smoke alarm on every level and outside of each sleeping area. One of the new legislation items we're going to look at next year is eliminating the sale of the 9-volt smoke alarms here in the state of Maryland. So the new 10-year smoke alarm will be the only alarm allowed to be sold in the state. As your new state fire marshal, I will continue to promote the partnerships our agency shares with local, state, and private industry in helping us gather more resources, disseminate more information, and accomplish more tasks in the name of fire and life safety. For the 12th consecutive year, Delmarva Power Emergency Services Partnership Program donated residential smoke alarms to the Office of State Fire Marshal for distribution throughout Delmarva's service area in Maryland. This year, we received 1,000 10-year long-life sealed battery smoke alarms from Delmarva. By working with partnerships like Delmarva Power, Pepco, and others, we are able to increase the resources and extend our reach into the community to those people who need it most. The public-private partnerships with Pepco and Delmarva Power have enabled the distribution of over 18,750 smoke alarms, 1,042 special needs alarming devices, and 1,850 carbon monoxide alarms in both Maryland and Delaware. Statewide initiatives advocating the installation of maintenance and testing of smoke alarms, coupled with the developing and practicing home fire escape plans, continue to help communities reduce fire deaths and injuries. The next statewide Community Risk Reduction Weekend is scheduled for October 18th through 19th. We just recently had one back in May. We did get some numbers from Prince George's County, from Howard County, and a few companies out in Carroll County. So we're looking for all departments in the next Community Risk Reduction Initiative in October to get out on the road, visit those neighborhoods that need the help, and get in there and check smoke alarms for us, and make sure your communities are safe for the winter season that'll be coming up. In 2013, the Mid-Atlantic Life Safety Conference celebrated its 54th anniversary, and the title of the program, held on September 24, 2013, was Confronting Today's Challenges. The 2014 conference is scheduled for Tuesday, September 23, 2014, and the theme this year is "Oh Say, Can You See the Future?" It is based on America's 200th celebration of our national anthem, and the workshops are designed to help departments work on future strategies. You'll ask me for a little indulgence here, and then we're going to take a little break in the presentation. I'd like Deputy Fire Marshal Bruce Bouch to come out, and Fire Protection Engineer Ken Bush to come out, please. Yes, sir. Yep, you.
This is a little impromptu thing we kind of worked out without Ken's knowledge, but it's in recognition of 12 years of excellence and leadership for the Mid-Atlantic Life Safety Conference. So if any of the members of the conference are here, please feel free to join us. But we just want to say thank you very much, Ken Bush. You've really set the bar, and I'm pleased with the ability to be able to stand in and take over for you. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for that. The Office of the State Fire Marshal and the Maryland State Firemen Association, the Delaware State Fire Marshal, the Delaware State Fire School, Dover Fire Department, and the National Fire Protection Association and the Home Fire Sprinkler Coalition combined efforts to promote fire prevention and residential fire sprinkler awareness at the Dover International Speedway, the NASCAR event, on September 27th, 28th, and 29th of last year. This was the first time to perform such an event in such a large venue with this group of professionals. We spoke to roughly 2,000 race fans during that weekend, and our display tent was located in the fan zone, which involved interactive fire safety for children and adults, smoke alarm awareness and instructions, as well as myths and facts on residential fire sprinklers that included a side-by-side burn demonstration on Saturday the 28th to promote the value of residential fire sprinklers. The event was very well received by all members of the public and fire professionals involved with the event. Plans are already being put together for this September to perform another live side-by-side burn and to make the experience even better. So if you get a chance to come out to Dover in September, appreciate it. It would be great. And stop by our tent. It was a great experience last year. When I was in the stands getting ready for the race to start, there was a lot of conversation about the residential sprinkler side-by-side burn. So clearly it raised the awareness to a lot of folks that were there. Every year, the Office of the State Fire Marshal experienced some staffing changes, and in 2013, I became the fourth State Fire Marshal of the great state. And I look forward to the progress we will make together in our life-saving efforts. Additionally, we were able to fill a much-needed administrative position at our Upper Eastern Regional Office in Easton with the hiring of Penny Dottie. Deputy State Fire Marshal Dexter Hodges, who was assigned to our Southern Region, was assigned to an ATF Joint Law Enforcement Operations Program in March, where he currently remains in that position in ATF's Arson Field Office in Baltimore. William Barnard retired after 12 years of exemplary service as the State Fire Marshal, and Deputy Chief Mark Bilger retired as well from the agency after 20 years of outstanding service. Deputy Carson Widows departed the Upper Eastern Shore region after fulfilling 14 years of service to the agency. Chief Joseph Flanagan, after many years of dedicated leadership, stepped down as the Chief Deputy State Fire Marshal to return to the Lower Eastern Shore as the Regional Commander, replacing Chief Mike Mulligan. We are currently in the process of hiring a new Chief Deputy at this time and hope to have them on board by next month. On a sad note, as you saw last night's memorial service, on a solemn Wednesday afternoon on November 20th, 2013, the office attended a memorial service for James C. Robbie Robinson. He was the first modern-era State Fire Marshal to take the helm and provide the direction of this agency and truly laid the foundation of the office. Robbie was a forward thinker and constantly strived to promote the reduction of loss of life through strict enforcement of fire codes. His passion for fire safety will carry on through the future as his book, Introduction to Fire Prevention, 8th edition, has been published. In 2013, the Office of State Fire Marshal conducted a total of 1,021 investigations. Out of that, 738 fire investigations, of which 252 were criminal in nature. The criminal closure rate for these offenses was 35%, which is well above the national average of 18 to 19%. In addition, 225 explosive incidents were investigated and 58 other investigations were conducted as well. The total criminal closure rate for all cases was 39%. Office of State Fire Marshal staff members completed 16,113 fire and life safety inspections. This level of performance is an outstanding example of the level of commitment to the safety of citizens of Maryland. Fire protection engineers reviewed 1,858 construction and fire protection system plans. As a whole agency, we had 1,075 community outreach hours last year. It is through an agency-wide commitment to fire and life safety that we work for the citizens and with the Maryland Fire Service to accomplish the mission of protecting life and property from fire and explosions. I would ask that you all please embrace all of the 16 life safety initiatives that were developed 10 years ago. I would ask that you place more emphasis on Initiative 14, Public Education, and 15, Code Enforcement and Fire Sprinklers this year. We need to continue to get the message out more and more into our communities. Take the time when you go back home from the convention and develop a plan to continually get the fire prevention message out into your community. At the recent Tampa 2 Summit, when they revisited the 16 life safety initiatives, it's my understanding, and I might be corrected on this, but when they broke out into the different workshops, when they came back, the highest priority, what they said, that we're going to reduce firefighter fatalities and injuries is fire prevention. And truly, folks, that's the way we have to do it. We have to reduce these numbers because when we go out the doors, like I said, those are our failures amongst our many successes. So please take all opportunities to interact with the public, not just during Fire Prevention Week in October. When you do have a fire incident, make a point to get back into that area as soon as possible and talk to the people that were impacted by the event. Promote the 10-year sealed battery smoke alarms, escape plans, and to get out and stay out. If requested, install smoke alarms within homes in your community and conduct fire safety reviews. Please focus on our senior and youth populations. Go to schools, daycare facilities, senior centers, and other locations where these folks will be located. Do not wait for them to call you. Reach out to them. Please share your information and knowledge you have on preventing fires. It takes very little time, but the information you will share goes a long way in the end. Please make fire prevention your most important service within your departments and reinforce that message with your personnel each and every day. And for the younger folks that are here, and I know it's all about going out and riding a fire apparatus and going to calls, but really, fire prevention is extremely important. And, if anything we can do to help you in that respect, please do reach out to us. And I just want to give a shout out to a good friend of mine, a good personal friend. Chief Jamie Jarbo back here in the room knows about fire prevention. He lives it, he embraced it, and he's all about it. He gets it. So reach out to him. He's with Tacoma Park. He's done an outstanding job there on all the years that I've known him and worked with him and his brother for many, many years. So please reach out to Jimmy. He can help you with those things. So now, if you would, please join me in honoring our Regional Deputy State Fire Marshals of the Year for 2013. Deputy State Fire Marshals, Ed Ernst for the Western Region. Congratulations. From our Upper Eastern Shore region, this year's award recipient was Deputy Fire Marshal Dan Giblin. Unfortunately, Dan left the agency just a month ago to join ATF. He's down in Glencoe, Georgia, going through the training there now. But accepting his certificate on behalf of him is his brother, CJ, who works for us as a fire protection engineer in the office. From the Lower Eastern Regional Office, Deputy Fire Marshal Thomas Haar. And from our Southern Regional Office, Deputy State Fire Marshal Karen McMahon. And from the Metro Region, Deputy State Fire Marshal Brian Quick. Congratulations. And last but not least, from the Northeast Region, Deputy State Fire Marshal Joseph Walters. You've seen the van out front. Deputy Fire Marshal Walters was the one who spearheaded getting that fire investigation unit van up and running for us. He did an outstanding job. He really looked outside the box, got some funding and different things, and really did an outstanding job on that, so we're thanking him for that. Each of these individuals represent their peers with great distinction. Each has gone above and beyond the call of duty. They come to work every day looking forward to the challenges and making Maryland a safer place to live, work, and raise a family. It is important to note each have risen to this level with the strong support of their supervisors, the admin staff, their fellow fire safety inspectors, fire protection engineers, and deputy state fire marshals. As always, the job of the Deputy State Fire Marshal of the Year Selection Committee is extremely difficult, and this year was really no exception. I saw the letters, and these folks have done outstanding work last year. Just like I said, the letters were filled with examples of exemplary duty and service, deserving much more than the award provides. To each of you, I sincerely thank you for your service and devotion to duty. Let's give them a hand, please. I now have the great pleasure of introducing to you the 2013 Deputy State Fire Marshal of the Year. During 2013, this Deputy State Fire Marshal excelled in their responsibilities involving the fire marshal profession. This deputy established themselves as a thorough and efficient professional with a great deal of confidence in their ability. This deputy has constantly demonstrated themselves as a self-motivator and reliable employee and always represents the Office of the State Fire Marshal in a positive manner. This deputy was cited for their many achievements in 2013, such as conducting 95 initial fire and explosive investigations, maintaining a 56% criminal closure rate, and conducting 163 fire safety inspections. This deputy was also the lead investigator on a multi-county arson spree involving 42 fires set in vehicles, barns, homes, garages, and trash containers. This deputy worked feverishly alongside a team of deputy state fire marshals, Maryland State Police, Washington County Sheriff's Office, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, and the Washington County State's Attorney's Office. Their outstanding efforts resulted in the arrest of 8 individuals responsible for setting these fires. And today, I think we have 1 left that still needs to go to trial. While off duty, this investigator observed suspicious persons leaving a local bank and continued to follow them while updating the 911 center. All their activities leading to their felony arrest as they had just robbed the bank. He followed them. He also assisted in the arrest of these individuals as well. All of these tasks were accomplished while maintaining his normal workload and on-call bomb squad technician and serving the Drug Enforcement Agency Western Region Clan Lab response team. This deputy also performed multiple public safety demonstrations throughout the year and serves the community as a volunteer firefighter at the Volunteer Fire Department in Halfway. This highly respected investigator has excelled at each and every aspect of their career and is a model employee. It is my honor to present to you the recipient of the first James C. Robinson Award, recognizing the Deputy State Fire Marshal of the Year for 2013, Edward Ernst. Just also want to mention that Ed has just taken on another responsibility as a canine handler for us. We received an explosive detection canine dog from MSP. Okay. And so he's working on that. He should be done the end of the month here. That dog should be up and running and in service for us up out west for an explosive canine. So he does quite a bit. So in closing, I want to say the staff of the Office of State Fire Marshal looks forward to working closely with incoming Presidents David Keller and Ann Price Davis. We wish them great success during their terms of office. In closing, I just want to thank everyone who has welcomed me back into the Maryland Fire Service family. It's been a great honor and privilege for me to serve as a 4th State Fire Marshal. I look forward to maintaining our long-standing relationship and working with the leaderships to make Maryland safer from fire and explosions. I also want to thank my staff who's here today, who came out to see the presentations. Thank you for coming. And as always, thank you for all your support, and stay safe. At 3:30, I am doing a workshop on hoarding in the fire service. If you can reach out to your folks. Clearly, we've had some issues with that in the last this last year. We lost 6 people, and we lost a firefighter in Baltimore County last year in a hoarding situation. So that presentation's in room 209 at 3:30, so I hope to see some of you there. So again, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
I just want to say thank you again on behalf of the Maryland State Firemen's Association, and personally, just thanks for our friendship. I hope it continues, even though I'll be a past president soon. So I have a certificate of appreciation for you.
Thank you.
From us, as well as our goodie bag.
Appreciate that.
Please attend his workshop today, and there's another one on Wednesday, early morning, that talks about history. They'll be celebrating 50 years in October, so thank you again. Yeah, we're good. Hey, Jim, he'll be here tomorrow. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to bring to the podium Chief Michael Robinson of the Baltimore County Fire Department to give his main program presentation. See, we're like little puppets. They tell us in the back.
Good afternoon. And before I get started, I have a brief report. I also happen to serve as the chair of the Maryland Fire Service Personnel Qualifications Board. And on behalf of the MFSPQB, I bring you greetings, and I have our brief annual report. This past year, the Maryland Fire Service Personnel Qualifications Board has continued to prosper as your Maryland voluntary certification agency. As I talk about what we've done, I would like to request any of our delegates, alternates, or past delegates or alternates who are in the audience, please stand and be recognized. That's Eugene Worthington. And without them, and if you're not aware of it, each county and several of the major cities in the state have an alternate and a delegate who serve as representatives to the board. We began in 1986. We're currently in our 28th year, and during our tenure as the certification entity for the state of Maryland, we have issued a total of 130,000 certifications. 130,000 certifications in areas from firefighter 1 through fire officer 4, from instructor 1 to inspector 3, and many other technical areas in between. We continue to prosper because of a cooperative working relationship, and I'd like to recognize some of our principal assistants here today. First and foremost, to Director Steve Edwards, the Maryland Fire Rescue Institute, who provides us a permanent home for the certification board and its activities, along with Larry Preston, the assistant director, who works with us daily, and most importantly, Evelyn Graff and Bob Rose, our certification coordination staff, who works tirelessly in College Park on our behalf. Any of you who have been down there to get a certification that was promptly needed to apply for a promotional opportunity, to win an election in your fire company, you know how important the behind-the-scenes work is. Also to Ron Hassan, who oversees the certification section of Maryland, of MIFRI, and I'd also like to acknowledge the work of both Larry Preston and Ron Hassan. Ron serves on the International Fire Service Accreditation Congress Board of Governors. Larry serves on the National Pro Board Commission on Accreditation, and to Director Steve Edwards, who serves on the board along with 3 other Marylanders of the National Pro Board. So we're really in good shape. This year we have done 6,000 certifications, and I'm pleased to announce that we will continue with our previous edition certifications. That means if you have taken training underneath a previous standard of an NFPA technical professional qualification standard, you will still be eligible to get certification, even though that standard has sunsetted and has been replaced with a current standard. I encourage you to go to the MIFRI website, and we have a link off of that to download the applications. And I thank each of you and each participating company for making Maryland #1 in the nation for professional qualifications and certification. Thank you. Okay, now at this time I'm going to begin the 1 o'clock presentation. Not that anything's behind, but those that don't know me, I'm a division chief with the Baltimore County Fire Department. I've been there about 31 years, and I currently serve as a division chief in emergency operations. I'm also the special ops chief, oversee our fire dispatch, oversee our public education and public information office. And I happen to be on duty back on May the 28th of 2013. I was actually sitting at our headquarters building. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the second day of my 4-day tour, and suddenly a call came out announcing that we had a railroad emergency, specifically a train fire. The good news is that our regularly assigned 1st Due Battalion Chief was out of service doing training at our fire academy, so I actually became the 1st Due Chief on that incident. And what I'm going to talk to you about for the next several minutes today, plus we have some actual video footage, is an incident that any one of you could have in your own communities. How many of you have railroads going through your communities? Okay, this could happen anywhere. On our particular case, it happened in Baltimore County, just at the Baltimore County-Baltimore City line. In fact, through the technology that our hazmat unit was able to provide, I had an aerial Google map that clearly showed the borders, and that resolved a lot of issues real quick. But it's really not about who's in charge. It's about partnerships. It's about liaisons, knowing who your neighbors are, knowing all the agencies who are going to show up at an incident like this, and being able to have a command presence to make things work very functionally, very specifically, and to bring the incident to a positive close. We could have had some major injuries, we could have had fatalities, but fortunately we didn't. So in the next several minutes, I'm going to take you through exactly what happened that day. And we're going to take a look at our incident response. We're going to take a look at the actions of our first arriving units. We're going to look at the incident organization, particularly how we used the incident command system that day.
Got a monitor on the floor.
Oh, there's my monitor. We're going to look at our mitigation activities. We're going to look at interagency cooperation, and we're going to look at our demobilization, and we're going to take a look at what were the lessons learned. So you can read this certainly better than I can, but here's an overview of what happened on that day. We received a call shortly after 1400 hours for Lake Drive near Pulaski Highway in Rosedale. This is a commercial area that consists of light industrial activities, lots of Type 2 non-combustible warehouses. It's an area that's been an industrialized area for probably over 100 years, and it's in close proximity to Interstate 95, which is a mile away. It runs off of U.S. Route 40, Pulaski Highway, and it is close to both the CSX major north-south rail line as well as the major north-south Amtrak line. It's also part of the air corridors coming into both BWI and the General Aviation and Military Airport at Martins and Middle River. Our incident response consisted of an initial first alarm response, which we used the emergency fire dispatch program, and this is what I would call a heavy first alarm response with additional equipment, as well as our hazardous materials response, which consists of our main hazmat unit out of our Brooklynville station, the closest satellite unit, which was out of our Eastview station, our foam engine, as well as an advanced life support strike team, 5 ambulances, and an EMS supervisor. En route, I escalated the incident to a collapse rescue, as you'll hear in the video. There was a pretty significant explosion, where for you chemists out there, it was probably an oxidation reduction reaction. If you see the videos, you'll just be calling it an explosion. So we enhanced this with a collapse rescue, which brought our USAR team, the city's USAR team, and a number of other resources. We then went to a second alarm and a number of special calls. The ironic thing about this response is that Baltimore City simultaneously received probably hundreds of 911 calls as we did. And if you look at the proximity to the city, obviously it's a matter of which tower you hit off of. So the city sent a first alarm hazmat assignment as well. Now hopefully this is going to work. We're going to show you a video, and this video is about 12 minutes long, and this will first have all the dispatch talking, which will go for about 6 minutes. Then you'll hear the actual fire ground response. And I want to thank my crew at Station 14, Captain Scott Russell and Lieutenant Phil Hebert, for putting this video together. And these are all the partners that we had. This is the actual crash occurring. And driving that trash truck you saw was a retired Baltimore County driver.
Engine 16 from dispatch.
Engine 16.
16 prepare to copy. Truck 15 from dispatch.
Truck
15. 15 prepare to copy. IV 203 from dispatch.
203.
By to copy. Alert Firebox 28-5, 7517 Lake Drive. Alert Firebox 28-5, Fire Academy 1 on TAC 32, Division Chief 1, Engine 281, Engine 16, Engine 15, Engine 7, Truck 15, Truck 8, Squad 523, Squad 262, Medic 15, Medic 106, IV 275, IV 203, Medic 110, EMS 3, Foam Unit 14, Squad 213, respond for a train fire, 7517 Lake Drive, between 66th Street and the dead end. Respond on TAC 32, engine 16.
Direct, 132. How many minutes? Trucks direct.
IV 203.
Direct, be advised, I have a large column of black smoke from that area going to 32. Engine 6 available. Engine 71 available. Engine 8 available.
Engine 8, 1407.
Engine 71 available.
Engine 71, 1407. Squad 523, response check 1407. 262, response check 1407. 213, response check 1407.
344 to dispatch. Big 1 dispatch, we're in upper end. 71 direct on firebox, going to 32.
Medic 1 to dispatch. 1, you're advised to stay in service. Clear firebox 28-5, 7517 Lake Drive. Alert firebox 28-5, engine 71, squad 483, squad 303. Respond for a train fire, 7517 Lake Drive, between 66th Street and the dead end. Respond on TAC 32, 1409.
Engine 17 does service at the station.
Little explosion there.
Medic 10 from dispatch. 10 standby. Engine 6 from dispatch.
6.
Engine 6, standby to copy. Alert firebox 28-5, 7517 Lake Drive. Alert firebox 28-5, respond for building collapse. Battalion Chief 33 on East, USAR 17, Engine 12, Engine 6, Tower 209, Squad 322, IV 275, Medic 10, Medic 55, EMS 2, Truck 297, Truck 1, ATR 1, respond for a train wreck, building collapse, 7517 Lake Drive off of 66th Street and the dead end. You'll respond on East. Engine 6, you direct.
I'm direct on
Medic 10, you direct.
Medic 10's got it going east.
1415.
So 344 to dispatch. Medic 1 dispatch, I'm going to be ahead of 55 on that. I'm going to start heading that way.
Dispatch to Division Chief 1, Division Chief 2, Battalion 1, Battalion 2, Battalion 3. OEP 1 and 2, contact ADO via landline. All units paged, contact ADO via landline 1450.
344 to dispatch. Medic 1 dispatch, were you direct on my transmission?
Third second alarm firebox 28-5, 7517 Lake Drive.
Dispatch, engine 57.
Alert second alarm firebox 28-5. Battalion Chief 31 on East, utility. Engine 271, Engine 231, Engine 222, Engine 201, Tower 17, Floodlight 293, Air Unit 248, IV 239, Medic 3, EMS 8, Rehab 155, Engine 10, Engine 250. 7517 Lake Drive between 66th Street and the dead end. Respond on East. 1418. Medic 1, you're to remain in service.
Dispatch, engine 57, engine and air 57, we're in the vicinity of station 15. We're going to go ahead and respond on the firebox.
Attention all stations, all volunteers man your stations for the all call. 1419.
Division Chief 1 en route.
Engine 15, 1403. Paramedic 110's en route. Medic 110, 1403.
Truck 15 en route.
Truck 15, 1404.
Engine 16 en route.
Engine 16, 1404. Medic 15, 1404.
Truck 8 en route.
Truck 8, 1404. Medic 25 en route. 106 en route. 106.
Academy 1 route.
Academy 1, 1405.
Dispatch, engine 16. Do you have a hazmat on this?
That's
Direct. Dispatch, paramedic 12, be advised, I got
has a cargo trail with 2 rails. It's on fire, possibly into a warehouse, and it's a 1405.
Dispatch, engine 16. Do we have content?
Not at this time. Further information, the truck also, correction, the train hit a dump truck. Unknown if the driver is out. We've heard multiple explosions, and the warehouse that it hit says all walls have collapsed.
Okay, received.
Safety 108.
1408. Medic 285, 1408.
Dispatch from Division Chief 1. Check with Engine 16, reference to level 2 staging area. We'll let them go in to investigate and want all other responding units to level 2 stage so we determine what we have.
Dispatch from Engine 16, have everybody level 2 stage on Pulaski Highway at 68th Street.
Dispatch for all units responding, 28-5. Level 2 staging, Pulaski and 66, 1409. 71, 1409.
Truck 15 arrives.
15, 1409. Hazmat 114 from dispatch.
114.
Do we know if there's anyone inside the collapsed warehouse?
There are people. We're going to make an attempt to move through the warehouses from the safe end, moving towards the heavily damaged area. I don't want any units closer. We possibly still have more explosions.
Responding 28-5. Do not move too close to the incident. Possible more explosions to come. 14.
I'll advise as soon as we stop backing up. I'm getting away from the incident.
Dispatch from Division Chief 1, request a collapse rescue assignment to be added to this. Have them go to level 2 staging.
Okay, collapse rescue also add to the assignment to level 2 staging.
Engine 15's arrived. We're on the hydrant. Engine 16 laid off. Dispatch from Engine 16. Okay, at this time we do have a train containing container trailers and tankers. We do have at least 2 fully involved, unknown what it is at this time. Witnesses report that the train struck a tractor trailer. Unable to confirm that at this time. Captain Hamilton, Engine 16 will have command. Okay, dispatch from command.
Go ahead, command.
Along with truck 15, I need to get some other people on Biddle to check out those warehouses. They were hit significantly. We also have multiple trees down in the area.
The 68th Street.
That's correct. We got the spectators all over the place. We need to back them out of here. Truck 15 from command. Truck 15.
Right now, we're evacuating 7455. We're going to move in from the back to the next one.
Okay, we're direct. You're up on Biddle, correct?
We are on the railroad track side. Not sure what address the dealers are carrying, whether it's Biddle or the trackside street.
Okay, my crew is going to check out the warehouse directly adjacent to the incident. Report that there possibly is people inside. That's correct. All warehouses in the area need to be evacuated. Command from dispatch, go ahead and give me a second alarm.
Truck 8 arrives.
Battalion 31 is going to be en route.
Battalion 31, 1414.
Dispatch from command. Baltimore City Engine 51 is also on the scene with us. They are going to assume RIT on Lake Drive at this time for Engine 16's crew searching the warehouse.
Okay, which city engine was that again?
Baltimore City Engine 51. Also, I would like to restrict all radio traffic unless necessary.
Dispatch for all units, Fox 28-5. Command restrict channel at this time, 1415.
Command from 71, urgent.
Go ahead, 71.
Back here, got the driver of the truck trapped side of the road, overturned, 4 blocks behind you.
4 blocks behind Engine 16. That's at Lake and Biddle, correct?
I'm going to go 68th and Lake. I need a medic.
Okay, command from dispatch.
Go ahead.
Have the second truck and the squad and a medic go to 68th and Lake for 71 with the overturned tractor trailer.
Truck 8's directed out. We're with 7 now.
Truck 8 on direct. Medic units respond over to Lake and 68.
EMS 4 dispatch, stand by.
Division Chief 1 has arrived. Command, what's your location?
I am on Lake Drive.
213, go to Lake and 68.
Battalion 32 has arrived.
Battalion 32, 1417.
Dispatch from command.
Command.
I'm going to need police up on Biddle Street. We have multiple residents and onlookers. Everyone needs to be evacuated off of Biddle.
Requesting level command, 1417.
114. City Hazmat Commander should be on scene in less than a minute.
Okay.
The building with the most damage in front of Engine 16.
523, hold up there. Back up so I can get in ahead of you.
Truck 15 commands.
Go ahead, Truck 15.
Evacuated the first 2 warehouses into the most heavily damaged now.
Okay, Dan, we've already got the one exactly adjacent to the scene. Primary is negative on that building. We are now evacuating that building.
Okay, that building is clear. The only one we had people in the first warehouse. We told them to leave. We'll go back and confirm. We are cutting off all gas service also.
Okay, let me confirm that between truck 15 and engine 16, those three buildings, we checked the first of the three are clear, correct?
The first warehouse, 7455, did have people in it. We told them to evacuate. They were leaving. Second warehouse was vacant. We have cut off the gas. We had a gas leak. We are now cutting off the gas to the third warehouse right adjacent to the explosion.
Okay, command is direct. Also confirming that the next building in line has also been checked for a primary search, which is negative.
Command from 71, urgent.
71, go.
I need help down here. I need a truck. Injured is one of our own.
Okay, truck 8 is reporting to you at this time. Will squad 523 also help?
Yes, and I need that medic.
Okay, dispatcher, you direct on engine 71's message at 68th and Lake.
68th and Lake, we have an injured firefighter. Fire dispatch to command.
Go ahead.
Okay, we just need to confirm. I didn't get confirmation. We have an injured firefighter at 68th and Lake. Is that affirmative?
68th and Lake, that's correct. At this time, Division Chief 1 Robinson is going to have the Lake Drive command. Updated situation status. I've got a multiple car train derailment. We have some type of pressurized car fully involved, multiple warehouses with damage, one tractor trailer with one working rescue entrapment. All units stand by unless you have an emergency. Dispatch, restrict this talk group. Make it command restricted till I further advise so we can get a handle on what our situation is. We'll assign units as appropriate once we figure all of that out.
Attention all units on box 28-5, authority Division Chief 1. This channel is now command restricted until further notice, 1422.
Command from EMS 4. EMS 4, go.
I have medical staging at 68th and Pulaski Highway. I have IV or Medic 203 for the trap driver of the train. I have Medic 110 en route to the firefighter at Blake and 66.
Okay, EMS 4, your talk group. EMS 4, what talk group are you going to be utilizing? I'm going to designate you as Medical Branch Director. You're going to be Medical Branch Director. I'm going to get you 2 additional EMS supervisors. And you have a talk group yet?
I'm going to be on talk group 3-4, sir. 3-4 for medical command. I have 2 more units in staging at this point in time.
Okay, we'll get back to you. Find yourself an aide. Medical Branch on talk group 3-4. Acknowledged.
Medical's on 3-4, stand by.
Engine 71 from command.
71.
71, are you at the location of the entrapment?
I am. We got him out. I still need help. I need personnel. We don't have enough people.
All right, what do you need? You're going to be designated as the rescue group. Rescue group, acknowledge 71. You should have truck 8. Truck 8, if you're not assigned, report to 71, and you're getting squad 523. 523 and truck 8. What else do you need?
That should be good for now, Chief. I need personnel.
Okay, so as you could see from the video, quite a bit of activity. And again, that was a compilation of different scenes. The first arriving units on the scene was the career engine from our Golden Ring station. The Rosedale Volunteers, it was actually their first due area. In Baltimore County, volunteers have 3 minutes to respond. They're required to respond with a minimal crew of 4 people on either a special services unit or on a engine company. So there was a lot of initial transmissions, a lot of being in the middle of the day of a week, a lot of the volunteer units didn't get out fully staffed. Ultimately, we had more than enough help, career and volunteer. The Baltimore County system, those that aren't familiar with it, we have all career stations, all volunteer stations. When the alarm goes off, we're all part of the same team, integrated chain of command, and it works well most days. This is something that would challenge most fire officers. Typically, we run to single alarm incidents. We do well. We deploy, do fire tactics, particularly on structural fires, and it's not a big deal. This was challenging for a number of reasons because we had multiple events that we had to deal with. And those events included a train derailment, 44 cars, multiple hazardous materials cars. we had the initial blast wave from that explosion that impacted structures as far away as a half-mile. We had broken glass. We found in subsequent days some structural damage pretty significant to buildings within about a quarter-mile radius of that incident. The other thing we had is we had a pretty significant fire, which we also had an explosion. The blast wave from that explosion knocked out windows, caused structural damage, and knocked down trees. It caused the airbag to deploy on a police car. That was one of our minor injuries. Then we have chemicals that are going into the air. What do those chemicals consist of? If you pull out the DOT ERG and we evacuated a half mile in all directions, we would have been looking at about 122,000 people, which is not a realistic evacuation. So we made a decision early on to defend in place. The other big issue is getting validation of the chemicals involved. Within 2 minutes, unknown to me, on my portable device on my side, I had the consist that had been sent by our dispatchers, which they got from CSX operations in Jacksonville, Florida. Our hazmat crew ultimately got the information. We had some technical glitches, but once we got the information, we're online with CSX, we're online with DuPont, we're online with Chemtrek, and all of these units working in partnership with our hazmat folks did a tremendous job to identify the material. But we made a stance early on that we weren't going to do any fire suppression until we identified the material. And the real tribute goes to the first-in companies. They did exactly what they're trained to do under hazmat ops training, which is scene isolation, entry denial, setting up initial evacuation distances, and had it not been for what they did, we may have had some issues. So our first arriving engine 16 arrived simultaneously with our engine and truck 15. Station 15, which comes out of the North Point area of Dundalk, arrived. They're also a hazmat satellite crew. So between the engine and truck, they have 8 hazmat technicians start to assess the scene. Obviously, the first priority was we had a total of 5 warehouses that had sustained some kind of damage. So looking at the priorities on any incident, life safety being number 1, their first objective was to make a cursory search of the warehouse and get people to start evacuating. The next issue that we had is we had to recon the entire area to see what we were dealing with, and certainly to get a verification of the contents of the cars. The next issue was the buildings involved and the structural collapse potential. As you can see from the closest building, we had some significant collapse damage. Ultimately, we brought in our chief fire protection engineer, who has some structural background, to validate what we had found. The other thing that we needed to do is we needed to determine what was going on with the train and start to set up an incident that would support a pretty significant incident. We did level 2 staging. You heard that a couple of times. That's critical. If you turn on your porch light tonight, what happens? All kinds of things gravitate to that light. What happens with firefighters? Make no mistake about it. We have an incident like this that could be seen as far away as Harford County and Anne Arundel County. We all want to be there. We all want to help. But if we don't gain scene control early on, you're going to have a big challenge. We also had the hazard. We had an explosion. We didn't know if we were going to have subsequent explosions. So level 2 staging was critical. We set up 2 staging areas, a fire staging area and an EMS staging area, and the police set up their own staging area. So the position of staging manager is very important to an incident like this. The other thing is we established command early on. First arriving officer, career volunteer under our SOPs, assumes command. We had a captain of our career engine 16 who assumed command and maintained command until my arrival. These are some scenes of the incident. This is the what we thought was a tractor trailer. It was actually a Mack roll-on, roll-off truck. Mack chassis, which carries a dumpster normally. It was an unprotected railroad grade crossing, and the driver, who's a retired driver from our department, thought he could make it across prior to the train. He was mistaken. He was trapped in that. He ended up at shock trauma with multiple injuries and spent a number of weeks there. I just ran a working fire a couple weeks ago, and he was the pump operator of the second engine. So I can tell you he made a good recovery, and he's an active volunteer with us again. This is a site of the train just as it's getting ready to explode, a number of chemicals that were there, the most significant being a chemical, sodium chlorate, which is a strong oxidizer. You'll see when I show you the MSDSs in a moment that the highest flammability level of any of these materials was a 1. But what we have to remember is what do they do when they mix together? This is at the time of explosion, and if you go to YouTube, there's some pretty good renditions of this explosion with some really good conversations going on. I'll leave it at that. This is the nearest warehouse. I drive an unmarked Chevy Suburban, and everybody that sees this says, "Chief, you were too close to the incident." That is not my car. However, I will say in retrospect, as I probably was too close to the incident initially, you really need to make sure as an incident commander where you're going to position that command post. And my car ultimately became where the operations section chief worked, and when our mobile command bus got there, I gave him everything I had set up, walked away, and went to the mobile command bus. This is an overhead shot, 44 cars in the train. We had 4 cars carrying hazardous materials. And basically, this area is our ground zero, which until we got some more information and did initial recon, we did total scene isolation for this. This shows you the impact area, and this is based on some hazmat software that we used, and we plotted it out. We entered the chemicals, and we were challenged a little bit with some of our equipment, which wasn't functioning to 100%. Redundancy is the key to an incident like this. We had the city hazmat team and their unit with us, so we made use of their software. We also had the Maryland Department of the Environment. So we looked at modeling, and we looked at if we had to potentially evacuate this area, what would we be dealing with? And this shows you another shot of the potential evacuation area. If you look at the orange highlighted area, that's the area that we evacuated. And of course, we have apparatus coming in. We have civilian workers at 5 warehouses, and we had to evacuate them out. If you look at some of the videos, you'll see the state police command post there. It just so happened one of those warehouses operated a shop of some sort, and the state police command post was being worked on. So that's where we ultimately located our command post. I guess they thought the MSP was already there, but they weren't there. It was just there for repair. But that shows you the magnitude of what our evacuation distances would have been. Talk a little bit about the incident organization. Again, first 2 officers need to command. This is not the type of incident where you would ever want to pass or limit command. You need a strong command presence from the onset. That is what saves lives at an incident like this. If we just go in and we start to focus on firefighting, what could have happened? So our posture was scene isolation, entry denial, let's establish command. Once I got there, I established command, and I've been around for a couple of years. My first thought process was, I am not worried about any tactics right now. I'm not worried about any mitigation. What I need to do is have a good, solid organization. So my thought process was, using the ICS toolbox, let me make branches. And a branch, those of you that don't use branches, a branch is an intermediate level between the ops section chief and all your divisions and groups. And branches can be functional or geographic. So the first branch I made was a hazmat branch. And as fate would have it, our former hazmat captain, Kenny Hughes, had just made battalion chief. We had a chief's meeting that day, and he talked me into buying him lunch somehow. So I bought him lunch in the Towson area. I went back to work, and he wasn't even home yet. When I got the call, I called him on the cell phone, and I said, "You owe me for lunch, Kenny. Get down here. You're going to be the hazmat branch." And that was probably the best thing I could have done. Kenny's very knowledgeable. I know some of you know him. He's got a master's degree in Homeland Security. Once I made him hazmat branch, what did I have to do with hazmat? Nothing. That's the job of the branch director. He organized the whole hazmat branch with all the groups that go with that. I'm blessed as the special ops chief to have a great crew at Station 14 because they had some great mentors. I'm looking at Richard Brooks out there. And those guys are unbelievable. Between them and Chief Hughes, they set up, they knew exactly who to call. Baltimore City got there. We train with Baltimore City at least monthly. We're going to meetings with them. And one of the best things to happen out of 9/11 is the Urban Area Security Initiative and all the committees that come with it. They work seamlessly together. Maryland Department of Environment gets there. their chief of response, Jeffrey Donahue, one of our volunteer captains. So everything came together with the hazmat. I then created a medical branch. We didn't know if we were going to have multiple casualties, but we prepared for it. We had about 3 or 4 ALS strike teams, which is about 20 transport units. Our medical director, Dr. Andy Pollock from Shock Trauma, came to the scene. Dr. Wade Gash, the city's medical director, came to the scene. One of the products was a derivative of fluorine, so we thought we were going to have some hydrofluoric acid issues. We immediately contacted the nearby hospitals to get large quantities of calcium gluconate, which is an antidote for that. So again, our hospital preparedness kicked in. So if there's ever a success story of partnerships and networking, it was this incident. We then made a suppression branch because we knew eventually either the fire would burn out or we would have to put it out. We run emergency management in the fire department, and our division chief of emergency management, I'm staring at him now, Steve Miller, came, and I just looked at Steve and said, you figure out all the things with evacuations, and that's the way we did it, by going into branches. Once the branches were established, the battalion chief that was supposed to be first due showed up from the academy, Chief Tommy Kimball, and I looked at him and I said, Tommy, you're going to be the operations section chief. Do you understand what that means? At that point in time, the branches are going to do their thing. They come to the ops section chief only if they need a resource, and if he can't get it out of staging, then he calls command, and we'll get the resource for him. So I brought together my command team early on and said, this is our game plan. You all go out and do your things. Let's communicate effectively, and the incident kind of ran itself from that point in time. So if there's anything in retrospect, it's using the incident command system, and we have to understand how that works. So Engine 16 was the initial IC. I, as the shift commander, I became the sustained incident commander. And again, we utilized NIMS ICS to its fullest by establishing branch directors who took care of that overall incident scene. And that, again, proved to pay a whole lot of dividends. Here's our incident organization chart. The other thing that we did is I early on special requested our mobile command post. This is like everybody else's. We've got telephones, we've got computers. It's run by our fire academy, and they've all taken the NIMS ICS planning section chief class, so they're all qualified as planning section personnel. And that includes documentation, resource management, all those things, and we committed to making a written incident action plan. So that was one of the things they did, which included this org chart. So you'll see that we had an operations section chief. When you make operations, staging falls under ops, and we had a hazmat branch, a suppression branch, a medical branch, and because of the structural collapse, we had a USAR branch. Then we had a planning section chief, and we had a logistics chief, and all the moving parts fall under that. And then the command staff, which is the safety officer, Chuck Rogers, who's here somewhere, he's our health and safety officer. He showed up, gave him safety. I didn't have to say another thing if you know Chuck Rogers. He adequately handled that, and we had a number of assistant safety officers. We had a liaison officer because we had over 20 federal, state, and local agencies that responded. The incident commander doesn't have time to shake hands with everybody, and the liaison officer handles those functions. And then public information, which we'll talk about, was a big issue as well. Strategy and tactics, again, we had to identify the products to determine what we had. That was the big issue, was product identification. Our hazmat branch did that. They did an outstanding job. We had to determine what were the properties and verifying things, cross-referencing things. Before the incident was over, we had a PhD chemist that was at the scene to verify everything we did before we made a move, because if you go pouring water on this, and we now have a contaminated atmosphere, and we've got tens of thousands of people with respiratory issues, even in Maryland, we're going to be challenged to manage that many patients. We did an initial entry and recon, which consisted of MDE, our hazmat team, and the city hazmat team. They went in with all of their high technology instruments to verify things like pH, the chemical properties. And then we made several other entries after that. The other issues that we had with that is we had to have enough trained people so we could rotate crews, and that we assured that we had enough hazmat technicians to do that. Then we had the issue of fire suppression. It was at least 3 hours before the first water went on the product. The question was, do we use foam? BWI came, Martins came, do we use water? The temperature was so high in this fire that the foam would have burned off, so we ultimately made the decision to deluge this with multiple master streams. This is an initial entry into the area, and this is the CSX hazmat specialist, a guy named Mike Austin, former member of Early Heights where I was the chief. I taught him his first hazmat ops class at age 16. Now he runs hazmat incidents all over the country for CSX. We work with him on a regular basis. He's very involved with both the city and the county hazmat team, and having a resource from the railroad, who was the responsible party, was very valuable with his level of technical expertise. I called him on the phone. He didn't know the derailment had occurred, and he got there within 20 minutes of the initial assignment. So to have somebody like that was tremendous. There's the railroad consist. We got that pretty quickly. Within about 2 minutes, it came into our dispatch center. Ultimately, it was relayed to our hazmat branch, and we were dealing with 3 primary chemicals based on the consist. And those chemicals were basically, if you look at the 704M markings, and I'm not going to get heavy into the chemistry here, but we had something called silicic acid, which we thought might have been a derivative of fluorine, which could have been some big issues. We also had the sodium chlorate, which is a strong oxidizer, and we had terephthalic acid, which is a constituent used in the production of these types of containers, plastic water bottles. So we had to research significantly what happens when these things mix, what's their current state of matter, and once we identified that, we had an incident action plan to go along with what we were going to do. The sodium chlorate was in hopper cars. The other 2 materials were in tank cars. We turned out to find that they were non-pressure vessels. They were purely liquid vessels. Because of the explosion, we had 5 warehouses that had damage, and we were committed to doing a USAR-type search and rescue, looking at these with potential for structural collapse. Our urban search and rescue team at our Station 17 is part of Pennsylvania Task Force 1. They've been to the World Trade Center. They've been to a number of national-level disasters. So they were called in along with our volunteer heavy rescue companies that are trained in structural collapse and the Baltimore City Special Rescue Operations Team. And together they divided themselves into search and rescue groups. And their task was not done until they had searched every inch of those buildings. Fortunately, we were able to evacuate everybody out of there. So we did not have any victims in those collapse areas, but it was important that we follow and validate everything that we would normally do in a structural collapse, and we weren't finished until that happened. We also had an assistant safety officer assigned to that. Also under the search and rescue branch was the extrication of our retired firefighter in the vehicle. You noticed in the video there was some discrepancy. We said we had a firefighter down. That was the actual crews that found him, and they wanted everybody to know it was a firefighter. There was obviously some confusion thinking that was a Mayday type situation with one of our firefighters down. So we finally clarified what that was all about. Then the medical branch. We called for a number of strike teams. We were preparing for a lot of injuries, and I believe we ended up only transporting 2 people. We had somebody, a civilian, that was injured slightly, and we had an MDTA police officer whose airbag activated. An incident like this certainly triggers the call down through EMRC. Phil Herlock's here. I don't know if he got a page on it. He probably did. MIMS sent the assistant regional coordinator to the scene, and I threw him out of our command post because he belonged with the medical branch. So one of the lessons learned is lots of people are going to show up, well-intended, but we need to get them to the right places. And MIMS provided outstanding assistance. Had we had to transport lots of people, we would have certainly been prepared for that. The other big thing that the medical branch transitioned into is we ended up with 350 responders. That's potential patients. So the medical branch ultimately sets up a medical unit under the logistics section, and we had to prepare for the hydration, for the feeding, and the other needs of those people. So we stood up a medical branch. We had separate ambulance staging because they need to have a different level of accessibility. The suppression branch, again, our biggest issue was, do we use water, do we use foam? How big of a water supply do we need? My estimate is we put probably over 1 million gallons of water to contain and cool the product. So that's a significant long-term operation. We had both BWI and Martins there should we have to use foam, but we identified that we didn't use foam. Again, what happens with the water runoff? We had the Department of the Environment there, and we determined with 1 million gallons of water, we're going to be pretty safe. So there was not a whole lot of issues with that. The other big thing is interagency cooperation. Those people are going to be there, and here's what works out well. Somebody may recognize that guy in the MEMA jacket. John Delaney's standing there somewhere. I told him I'd embarrass him. But these people are going to show up. The guy to the left of John is our local federal EPA person. Because I'm involved in our LEPC, I see that guy at least quarterly, and we're on a first-name basis. So partnerships are very important. Not only mutual aid fire departments, but all kinds of agencies are going to be showing up. So interagency operations, we need to know who the people are. We need to know that there's going to be a lot of resources. This occurred 50 miles from Washington, D.C., so think of all the federal agencies that decide they're going to have a role in dealing with this. I saw a guy from TSA, and I asked him if he was there to check baggage. They don't have a very good sense of humor, trust me. But when you get an incident like that, you need to have a good sense of humor. So we had lots of people, some who we had never met before, lots of local resources, lots of police. We had Harford County there. We had Baltimore City there. We had MDE there. Lots of people that we deal with on an ongoing basis. Office of Emergency Management, and they were on line with MEMA. They made all the determinations with that. The key to this, if you're the incident commander or in the command staff, is delegation. If you try to decide nozzle patterns and where everything goes, you're going to have a problem. And somebody came in to the command post at one point and said, "Chief, you need to change that nozzle pattern." And I looked at the guy, I said, "Not my problem. I got an operations section chief who reports to has a suppression branch, and we can't get parochial with those things or the incident's going to go downhill." And again, this shows you the importance of training and exercising. Probably my greatest asset that day is 25 years teaching incident command and running exercises at the National Fire Academy. We've got a train derailment in one of the classes that I do, and this was almost identical to what we have there. So training and exercising is what will prepare you for this type of an event. We had the state DOT. We had all kinds of police departments. We're about a half mile from Interstate 95, so this has an impact on everything going on the East Coast at some point in time. And Maryland Department of the Environment, again, we respond with them regularly. Know who your partners are. Investigation. Understand if it's transportation and it's big, who's coming to take over? National Transportation Safety Board. If you look at the gentleman on my left, he was the lead investigator. I just stopped talking to him this past May. This went on for 1 year. You need to understand who is the lead agency. When they get there, they don't carry guns, but they carry a lot of power and authority, including they'll get people that will arrest you if you're not going to be cooperative. So understand when they get there, it's going to be their incident. There will be a lot of legal issues. I had to get designated by the county as the resident agent and had to be the official person. You need one person who they're going to deal with as the go-to person. And I thought this is going to be an easy job because we met the next night over at the Hilton Garden Inn in White Marsh, and I said, "Damn, big buffet, bar tab," and that was a mistake, me getting involved, but it was also an educational experience. Because for the next year, I was the person they called for. They're going to ask for all your records, your 911 tapes, your communications tapes, your training records of your hazmat folks. This is very similar to going through a line-of-duty death investigation because they want to make sure that the local emergency services have dotted I's and crossed T's. So be prepared to gather a lot of data for them and be prepared to work effectively with them. And again, that investigation is going to be ongoing. The other thing, to the credit of the NTSB, before they published anything or put it on the internet, they would always send it to me to review. I would make sure my superiors had access to it and that we were all sure before they put that up. And I got to commend them for doing that. Media. That was a quick shot of the chief and the county executive. Media interface is a big thing. In Baltimore County, we have a shared PIO office. We have a director of communications, Elise Armacost. Some of you Baltimore area see her on the news. She's our director of communications. She runs the public information office, police and fire. What that gets us is a lot of media specialists that handle the social media, the inquiries. On the fire department side, I run the PIO function, and we have 5 people that are staff officers that rotate through. That day, we had to engage all of our PIOs, including some from the police. You are going to have a media frenzy. This is like a magnet to the media. When the D.C. news stations come to Baltimore and CNN and MSNBC, you know you've got a big event. So what you say is going to be very critical. And again, we had helicopters. We had to restrict air traffic. We had our PIOs and assistant PIOs. We need to have a clear and consistent message. My recommendation is that you have press briefings that you prepare for in advance so we're all saying the same thing. We need to have a media briefing area, and we need to do those at regular intervals. If we don't talk to them, who are they going to talk to? Everybody else. So make sure that you're prepared to handle the media. The other thing you need to understand is this is an opportunity politically, good, bad, or indifferent, for your elected officials, which is a great opportunity to market your agency, market your jurisdiction. The county executive was there, and the fire chief came to the scene to be with the county executive to brief him, and ultimately they were doing press briefings prompted by our PIO staff. One of our biggest lessons learned is in the future we will assign a hazmat specialist to the media group for the simple reason that if you misspell something, you misspeak something, understand the media has already done their research. And don't try to be a chemist if you're not a chemist. Give them factual information. It's okay to say, we're not 100% sure, but we're researching it. You can read between the lines. Make sure that your people are prepared when they give technical information to the media. And the other thing to remember is this doesn't end right away. An incident like this is going to go on for 2 or 3 days, and if you give them inaccurate information, they'll create a sidebar, and a whole other story will emerge as a result of that. So technical information is going to be important. Demobilization. That was our next area to deal with. We put out the fire, and the incident started to wind down about 2,000 hours. So that was roughly 6 or 7 hours after our initial operations. By 20-30 hours, I changed command to our nighttime battalion chief for the East Side, Battalion 34, Wayne Tome, another guy active in the organization. And our role at that time became complementary to what was going to go on for the next 2 days, cleaning up the incident. The other thing is with demobilization, you have a lot of career people. We changed shifts between 4 and 5 o'clock. We had 100 career people. You all do the math. At 1 minute after 4, or actually 1 minute after 5, if they're still there, that just cost us $20,000. So one of the things our planning section did, we brought in several fire department buses from the academy and from some volunteer companies, and we set up bus routes to get our career people relieved. Bring in the new crews, take the old crews back, and that saved us significant amounts of money. Understand in a combination system, we have volunteers that may have to work another shift. We need to include them in that same plan and work with those company officers to get those volunteers relieved, because quite frankly, in our department, where did those volunteers have to be by 1600 to work at our firehouses? We're a unique system, and most of our people are volunteers. So that became an issue, and that was part of our demobilization plan. Transitioning from an active fire scene to a recovery scene. CSX took the lead. I had a liaison with the senior manager of CSX. We sat down, we talked about what was going to happen, and our commitment to CSX was for the next 24 hours, we'll provide fire and EMS support. After that, you're going to be on your own. You're going to need to bring in a private ambulance service. You're going to need to bring in catering. But until then, we will support you 100% with logistical support. The NTSB then took the lead with the investigation and lots of things that we can't do because they need to investigate it. And again, lots of logistical issues. CSX, I said we need some lighting. Within 2 hours, 2 flatbed trailers were there with 12 portable lighting plants. I called our Public Works. They brought 2 portable lighting plants. And again, even though a lot of our fire apparatus has that, we don't want to tie up 4 or 5 heavy rescue companies doing nothing but providing lighting. So you need to be able to transition to private sector resources. This is some of the things that they brought in. They've got lots of people. They've got a blank check, and they will write those blank checks. We had to replace probably about 20 sets of turnout gear and over 100 sets of leather boots. You know what the price is. Go downstairs to the exhibitors. And they wrote us a check within a day. But what we needed to make sure of, the fire chief told me, if the guy driving that trash truck gets a new set of gear, you're getting fired. So we had to make sure that we were checking, and everybody just didn't raise their hand saying, I need a new set of gear. And our health and safety officer, Chuck Rogers, did a great job with that. This is some of the stuff that goes on after that. They build roads. This is a company out of Tawnytown called Crane Masters, and these guys are crane masters. They moved cars. They built a right-of-way, and basically we were there to support them. So to conclude, what were some of the things that we learned? We've got to identify these chemicals. That may take some time. If you've got technology, laptops, special software programs, even things like cell phones, you need to make sure that that stuff works all the time and it will do what you need to have done. So identification and information. Incident organization. You've got to know the incident command system beyond divisions and groups and command. If you've never used a liaison officer, then have a drill and talk about what they do. If you've never set up a planning section or a logistics section, have an exercise to figure out what they do. Using technology, it's good, but have a backup system. Communications. Didn't talk about it a lot, but we used 7 or 8 talk groups, and we have it in our SOPs. We go into something called the command net. Incident commander stays on one frequency. Each branch director had a frequency, and I can't hear any fireground communications. You want to be successful at a major incident like this, don't be an incident commander hearing what the hose patterns are, because you're going to get what? Tunnel vision. You're going to get focused in the wrong area, and you can't lead and manage that way. So communications were critical. PIO in the media, have a plan, and when it gets technical, have a technical specialist to whisper in their ear, or let that person do the briefing on whatever the chemicals are. Mitigation and extinguishment. How would we fight a fire like this in the future? We'd do exactly what we did. We'd find out what it was. We'd identify the properties. Cost recovery. This is a hazardous materials incident under federal law. This is a fully reimbursable incident, and you need to talk politically with the people that you report to see where we want to go on this. And we did a lot. CSX came through, and we got some significant cost recovery involved in this. And the investigation. Understand who's going to be investigating it. They came in and worked with our local law enforcement, with our accident reconstructionists, but respect what they're going to do. And then an after-action review. That was one of our big challenges, and we did an after-action review. We brought in a hazmat expert that used to work for us that's now internationally known. He conducted a very good after-action review for our special ops companies, and then the rest of our after-action review has been done in concert with NTSB. So look at the lessons learned and move on from there. And I know I'm beyond my time, and the convention ended today 2 hours ago. So with that, if anybody has any questions, let me see if I can go back. Anybody has any questions, you can get a hold of me through Baltimore County. I'd be glad to talk to anybody, be glad to come out and do this presentation locally for you. But again, what I want to emphasize, training, exercising, those of you that are chief officers, most of the calls we go to are room and contents dwelling fires. Be prepared to step out of the box and step backward to handle the major incident. And finally, I'd like to thank all of the men and women who responded to this incident. If you were on that incident, stand up real quick. Stand up. Come on, Steve. So that was who made this. It was the training, it was the experience, and everything coming together. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the convention.
Chief, on behalf of the Maryland State Firemen's Association, we just want to give you a certificate of an impression of our appreciation of our thanks for the outstanding program that you just gave us and for the support that you always give us. So thank you very much. We have a resolution and a goodie bag. Okay, at this time I'd like to bring to the podium Co-Executive Director of MIMS, Ms. Pat Gaynor.
You got it? Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the State EMS Board and the Maryland Institute for Emergency Medical Services, I'm happy to be here, and I'd like to thank all those in the fire and EMS community for their hard work and support. This year has been a year full of challenges, but also countless achievements, and it's through our extraordinary partnership that Maryland's EMS system became and remains a model for others throughout the world. We're grateful to the MSFA and all its members for their dedicated efforts on behalf of the EMS system. I'd like to begin by acknowledging President Jackie Olson. Jackie's service this past year and her hard work and support is greatly appreciated. I'd also like to thank First Vice President David Keller and Second Vice President Johnny Roth for their support this past year. I'd also like to thank Linda Dusa for her work on this statewide EMS Advisory Council. And I also want to express the deep appreciation of MIMS and the EMS Board to past President Gene Worthington. Gene stepped down from the board in May. We will miss him greatly. Over the past years, his contributions to the EMS system have been tremendous. Past President Fred Cross was appointed by the governor to take Gene's place, and we welcome Fred and look forward to working with him. Now I'd like to give you a brief overview of some of the significant events and successes we've had during this past year. Let me see if I can. Great. First, in January, our long-serving executive director, Dr. Robert Bass, retired after almost 20 years at the helm of MIMS. The EMS board is in the process of searching for a new executive director, and we look forward to concluding that search in the coming months. Also, most recently, Dr. Joseph Wright, Associate Director for EMS for Children, also retired. He is now the chairman of the Department of Pediatrics at Howard University Hospital. Programmatically, we are nearing the completion of implementing eMeds statewide. eMeds is Maryland's pre-hospital electronic patient data collection system. During the past year, Prince George's County and Charles County joined eMeds, and I'm happy to report that Montgomery County will be joining eMeds sometime this summer. Once that occurs, Maryland will be the first state in the country to be collecting pre-hospital information electronically, and we're very proud of that. We are poised at the start of another milestone, and that is the renovation and reconstruction of our EMRC Syscom communications system in Baltimore. The EMRC is responsible for handling EMS communications in regions 3 and 5 and for patching support in regions 1, 2, and 4. Our Syscom facility dispatches the MSP helicopters and coordinates the interfacility transport for the commercial services. The construction work is actually going to begin later this week, and we hope to complete all renovations by mid-October. All the work has to occur while the EMRC and Syscom remain operational 24/7. Once the work is completed, we'll begin the next phases of the project in Region 1 and Region 4, and that will integrate our system into the Maryland First communication system. This has also been an exciting year for MSP and MIMS as we work toward the integration of the new Augusta-Westland 139 helicopters. The AW-139s are better able to handle our current and future helicopter needs, and the project's success was brought about not only by the hard work of the MSP, but also the hard work and support of the partners in getting the funds to purchase the helicopters and then making the transition. To date, the state police have completed the transition of 4 sections, and they're currently working on the transition of the Washington section. MIMS and the state police have just released for comment a draft guide that local jurisdictions can use to plan for and respond to active assailant incidences. These type of incidences present unusual circumstances where police and fire and EMS respond simultaneously, not only to subdue the assailant, but to care for the injured. The draft guide contains information on training, PPE, and response and recovery, and also contains protocols for EMS providers. We've put it out for comment. If you want to get to the guide, you go to the MIMS website and click on the link. We'd like to get all comments in by July the 7th and get the report out and finalized later this summer. Now, in July of last year, MIMS began implementing the Veterans Full Employment Act that expedites licensing for U.S. Armed Forces service members who want to become certified or licensed in Maryland. And we are also one of the first state agencies to participate in the 100-day challenge to hire veterans. We encourage all the jurisdictions to participate in the challenge, and if you'd like more information on that, it's also on the MIMS website. Our Cardiac Arrest Steering Committee continues work in 3 areas of concern: EMD, or early dispatch of EMS, high-performance CPR, and community awareness. During the year, MIMS and Howard County Department of Fire and Rescue held another successful Maryland Resuscitation Academy. And the Cardiac Steering Committee is currently working on a CPR Appreciation Night at Ripken Stadium on June 29th that will provide mass training in hands-only CPR to those who come to the game. I want to make a brief mention now of some of the milestones during the legislative session. Among those bills that passed was one that formalized the statewide interoperability radio control board to coordinate the operation and maintenance of the Maryland First system. The board will be comprised of state agencies and local jurisdictions. Another bill that passed expanded the use of the Amos Fund monies that benefit volunteer companies. And another noteworthy bill that passed will require that beginning in 2015, in the school year 2015, all 9th graders will have to complete a CPR course that includes instruction in how to use an AED. Now, between now and the time when the General Assembly reconvenes in January, we are going to be working on a couple of studies. One of the studies will look at whether or not Maryland should begin the use of EMS personnel to provide mobile integrated healthcare services in the community. Another study we're going to be doing will look at the billing practices and methods of payment for commercial services when they respond as backup to the state police in the pre-hospital phase of care. I also wanted to mention the work of our Ambulance Safety Task Force. The committee continues to meet, and we held a summit in November to continue the work of jurisdictions and providers to increase safety for providers and patients riding in the ambulance. Also during the year, our regional educational councils held a number of seminars and conferences that were well attended. We were proud to present the Stars of Life Awards in May. Among the winners this year were 5 Maryland Youths for the Right Care When It Counts Awards and 23 departments, providers, and citizens for the Stars of Life Awards. Among this year's award winners was paramedic Sherry Donaway of the Del Mar Volunteer Fire Department, who was awarded the Leon W. Hayes Award for Excellence in EMS. This award is given for lifetime achievement in EMS, and we congratulate Sherry and all the awardees for their dedication and hard work. As a final note, we had two other employees retire this year, Leona Rowe in licensing and communications, and Frank Forte in communications. Between the two of them, they devoted 52 years of work to MIMS, and we wish them well in their retirement. The Maryland State Firemen Association and all our partners have shown incredible support and continuing support to help make and keep Maryland's EMS system the #1 in the nation. This collaboration has made us strong, and we look forward to continuing to work with you in the future. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Pat. We'd like to give you this certificate of appreciation for all that you do and working with us over the years, so we appreciate it, and we look forward to the continued service.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
And a convention bag. Now I call to the podium the Vice President of Shock Trauma, Karen Doyle.
Good afternoon. So am I standing between you and the beach? Is that the deal? So on behalf of the R. Adams Cali Shock Trauma Center, thank you very much for having us present to you today. We've had a little bit of a technical difficulty with my presentation, so I'm going to just give you a written report, and so that's probably good for you because I'll be quick and short and sweet. First of all, I want to congratulate President, or I guess past President Jackie Olson. She's been a great partner. We have really enjoyed the year with her, and our congratulations to our new president, Dave Keller. We know he'll do a great job. As far as the Shock Trauma Center goes, I think most of you know that we opened up our new building, and we officially had the grand opening in November of 2013. Our volumes, sadly in trauma, we continue to see a high volume of acutely critically injured patients, and thanks for your support. You continue to bring patients to the higher echelon of care. We opened up a new unit called the Critical Care Resuscitation Unit, and we've broadened our mission a little bit to be from the critically injured to taking care of the most critically injured to taking care of the most critically ill and injured. So you'll see that we have a high volume of interhospital transports for sepsis, necrotizing fasciitis, aortic dissections, in addition to our trauma volume. So we rely heavily on our interhospital transfers and our scene transports from our EMS providers. We just had a great presentation on a mass casualty situation. I want to compliment our partners and team on the Sparrows Point building collapse May 5th, 2014. I think most of you know that the roof of a building at the closed steel mill at Sparrows Point collapsed. And it took all of our partners, the Baltimore County Fire Department, the Maryland State Police, the Shock Trauma Center, to respond to this event. There were 7 medic units and 2 helicopters that were deployed to the scene. We received 4 workers that were transported to the trauma center at the University of Maryland, and there were 5 other patients transported to hospitals, local hospitals. We are continuing to evaluate that incident, and we're going to have an after-action review in July so that all of our partners can take a look at that incident and review what went extremely well and what opportunities exist for improvement there. But to those of you that were part of that response, congratulations. It was well organized and coordinated and a good outcome for the majority of our patients. I wanted to briefly mention that the Shock Trauma Center is the center that donates the largest amount of organs to our Living Legacy Foundation, our organ procurement organization in the state of Maryland. And the reason why I tell you that is because the work that you do at the scene is critical to us when we receive patients at the trauma center, so that if we're not able to preserve life, which 97% of the time we're able to do, we are able to preserve those patients so that they can donate their organs to other needy patients in our state. And so please know that the work that you do at the scene is meaningful to us, and we've been recognized over the year for our work with the Living Legacy Foundation and our ability to be advocates for organ donation. Now, as you know, the Shock Trauma Center serves at the hub of the trauma centers in terms of receiving the highest echelons of care for the sickest patients. What I want you to know is we see many, many people from across the country and across the world. They come and do observations and tours in our center. And over the last year, we have had people come from 23 countries to visit specifically the Shock Trauma Center. However, what we do when they come to the Shock Trauma Centers, we highlight the entire system. So we show them MIMS, we show our relationship with MSP, our relationship with MSFA, and our relationship with MIFRI. Because without those 5 sisters, partners, we're not able to work together. And so when we highlight, when we have these other countries come in to see us, they see you. And so 23 countries, 6 continents come to the state of Maryland to see the work that you do. Our Center for Injury Prevention and Policy certainly works with all of you and your teams on making sure that we don't get injured trauma patients. Sadly, we see about 8,600 patients a year, but we put on many more programs, trauma prevention, Trauma Survivors Network, violence prevention programs that we're able to try to prevent people from getting to our trauma centers. Now, what do we do with EMS outreach and education activities? It's important that we share our knowledge. And I want you to know from July 2013 to May 2014, we've put on ALS airway courses, observation programs to the resuscitation unit, many tours through the center and MIMS. We do evening educational programs and broadcasts through the trauma center so that you're able to get state-of-the-art, up-to-date care from our physicians and nurses. We participate in Winterfest, many other training activities in MIFRI. We work with our local fire departments so that we can help teach about chest tube management, rapid sequence intubation, concussions, hypothermia, and how we preserve life with permissive hypotension. And we've done workshops on ocular trauma and burns. And then finally, I think there are a number of you that were able to celebrate our gala, which is a celebration of our system. April the 26th, 2014, we celebrated all of us, and we presented the gala as the architecture of a hero. 57 EMS and medical heroes representing Maryland's highly coordinated trauma system were honored. There were 1,600 attendees to see the work that we do. Sponsored partners contributed over $1 million to support the ongoing work of our heroes, and we're able to provide scholarships to some of our EMS providers and to support the MSFA in a way that you need support. We were also to honor a firefighter, Jeff Novak, who was severely injured on the job, and he served as one of our gala heroes and had a beautiful night, and he was certainly recognized for the heroic work that he did for a major fire in Baltimore City. With that, I'm going to close. Again, I want to let you know what a privilege it is to work with each and every one of your divisions and companies and regions. And on a personal note, thank you. We're grateful for all the work that you do. Have a great conference. Thank you.
Well, Karen, we want to thank you for coming, and we appreciate the partnership, and we have a token here for you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, dear. Congratulations. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, we having a picture? You want a picture? Come on.
Alrighty, before we close today, there's a couple announcements. Make sure you go down there and visit the vendors. The vendors will be open till 4. Don't forget that there's a Jolly Rogers tonight and 6:30. Make sure you go downstairs and get your tickets. Also, the basket bingo, 5:30 the doors open, so if you could swing by if you want to play bingo, we appreciate it. The elections are tomorrow from 8 to 10, so please come out and vote. And this time I call Reverend Harry Hetz. Thank you.
Please rise. Let us pray. Our Lord and our God, dismiss us with thy presence and thy peace. Watch over our going out and our coming in. Grant us a time of refreshment this evening. Thank you for all that you do. We praise and thank you. Amen.
We recess this second session of the 122nd Convention until 8:30 tomorrow morning. Thank you.